Greetings everyone. Welcome back to Storytime Recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the film from 2010, 22 Bullets. Before we start, I hope your day be filled with sunshine and smile. Enjoy the story. The movie begins with Charlie Matt, our main character, and his son Anatoly returning from a nice vacation. After they return to the city, the child begs Charlie to let him get out of the car so he can see a busker perform. Charlie says he will be right there once he parks his car, but as soon as he does, a number of masked guys approach him and start firing at him. While he gradually loses consciousness, one of the masked men even kills a dog that has nothing to do with whatever their plan is. He recalls a memory from the past in which he was still a young man in prison receiving advice about leading a life of crime from an elderly mobster known only as Oldtimer. Oldtimer warns him that once he gets into the business, there is no turning back. Going back to Charlie, he is hurried to the hospital where surgeons are having difficulty extracting all 22 gunshots from his body. Meanwhile, on the other side of this narrative, we meet Tony Saka, a man who finds out about Charlie's situation. Tony Saka is clearly a strong and ruthless individual, therefore we have to consider if he was the one who employed a gang to assassinate Charlie. When Charlie's shooting is reported on national television, the news anchor notes that Charlie is a former mafia. Captain Marie Goldman of the Next Scene Police shows interest in the case and chooses to go to the crime scene. While Charlie is in surgery, we witness another flashback from his past. Young Charlie finds out that Oldtimer was murdered by his rival. Young Charlie and his closest friends Tony Saka and Karim decide to kill a well-known mobster named Hernandez for killing their old mentor. The young men swear to stay friends forever before they go out and exact revenge on Hernandez. They succeeded in getting revenge, and this is when their journey into the mafia world starts. Meanwhile, back in the present, police captain Marie Goldman is confronted by her superior, who tells her to drop the case because Charlie is a former mafia and the police should just let them kill each other. Marie ignores him and is adamant about looking into the matter because she might discover who killed her husband. She then visits Charlie in the hospital and starts questioning him, but he doesn't answer her questions for some reason, so she leaves the room frustrated. When Captain Marie gets an unsettling phone call at night as she is putting her son to bed, she spends the rest of the evening drinking and lamenting her husband's passing. While this is going on, Karim is clearly furious and determined to get revenge on whoever is to blame. Martin, on the other hand, tells him to wait until Charlie comes out of his coma. Karim then instructs Martin to take care of Charlie and not to leave him alone himself. Returning to the medical facility, a man enters the hospital by pretending to be a member of the medical staff. He then draws a gun, opens Charlie's room door, and shoots him multiple times. When the hospital staff hears the gunshots, they rush to the room and discover the dead body. But it is not Charlie because Charlie had been moved to a different room by Captain Marie before the shooting incident. As a result of the incident, Captain Marie sets up a surveillance team just outside the hospital. The following day, when she saw Tony Saki go inside the hospital to see Charlie, Tony expresses his relief that Charlie is still alive. Before leaving, Tony gives Charlie a greeting card that informs him that he is being watched by the police through an ambulance in front of the hospital. And shortly after, Karim and Martin visit Charlie at the hospital and take him with them. Upon witnessing this, Marie chooses to follow their vehicle. Karim quickly realizes they are being followed and accelerates. He then approaches a friend for assistance. Mary is no longer following them at this point. When Karim pulls the car into an abandoned warehouse and finds one of Tony's men strapped to a chair, he becomes visibly horrified to the point where he urinates in public. He reveals that he did not participate in the shooting himself, but Tony Saka, also known as Charlie's best friend, did send his men after him. Tony also wants Charlie dead because Charlie retired and left Tony to run their drug business on his own, and Tony is now afraid that Charlie would one day get in the way of Tony's plans. Charlie continues to assure him that no harm will come to him as long as he remains cooperative. Charlie finds all of this confusing. After a while, Kareem begs him to kill Tony as soon as possible. But Charlie is still conflicted because Tony is his best friend and he recalls their childhood bond. Eventually, Kareem gives in, and Martin drives Charlie home, where Charlie is warmly welcomed by his family. Kareem goes back to his family after returning home, but that evening Tony's thugs abduct him and take him away when he leaves his apartment. It turns out that the man who was tied in the chair earlier had the idea to abduct Kareem. Naturally, the bound man's scheme to win Tony's compassion failed when he was shot dead, and they subsequently severed one of Kareem's fingers to send home as a warning. Charlie, who is simply going about his day and minding his own thing, is surprised and devastated to learn of Kareem's death in the morning. He attends the funeral and sees the family weep and grieve. Sorrow Charlie becomes enraged and furious upon seeing this, and he becomes resolved to exact revenge. However, before he starts, he urges Pat to get his family to safety. Later that evening, we witness Tony's men enjoying a joyous dinner party as though they are completely guilt-free after torturing a guy to death the previous evening. However, their festivities are about to come to an end as Charlie is now officially a party wrecker. Charlie offers the men one final opportunity to say farewell to their loved ones now that they are unarmed, because they won't be around for long. Then, he shoots one of them, who he is positive is one of the men who shot him because he can identify the watch he wears on his wrist. With nothing more than the intimidating force alone, Charlie leaves Scott unharmed while the other men huddle in terror. The following day, another one of Tony's men is on his way to the deceased crew member's grave, as Charlie arrives and murders him. Tony sent his men to raid Charlie's house in an attempt to locate Charlie and his family after understanding that Charlie was now out for blood. Fortunately, they were unable to locate anything. Meanwhile, Charlie was relaxing across town with his faithful cat. When Martin the lawyer gets to Charlie's house, he discovers everything is in disorder. He quickly tells Charlie about this, but little does he know that one of Tony's guys is trailing him to Charlie's hideout, and soon the two are surrounded by badass people. Charlie stalls them while Martin tries to flee by boat. Eventually, one of Tony's men traps Martin and corners him. Charlie then uses his motorcycle to flee while Tony's men pursue him. He immediately returns to the custody of the police after smashing into a police vehicle, meeting up with Captain Marie Goldman in the interrogation chamber. Marie tells him a startling discovery from her investigation. Among the 5 shooters, one did not intend to kill Charlie at all, as evidenced by the multiple bullets she found embedded in a wall at the crime scene. In addition, Marie chooses not to arrest Charlie at this time because she is certain Tony Saki is responsible for her husband's death. Tony Saki is seen enjoying his daughter's wedding later that evening. He didn't know this. Charlie manages to capture one of his men just outside his home before killing him. Charlie insists that he turn over all of the data, that includes Tony Saki's recent drug dealings. Tony leaves the party and goes to his drug lab, where he eventually lets out his wrath, shortly after learning about what happened. Now that he has run out of patience, Tony orders his goons to find Charlie dead or alive. Pat picks up Charlie's kids, Anatoly and Ava, from school the following morning. Everything appears to be going according to plan until a van pulls up next to them. The men inside kidnap Anatoly and Ava before leaving. Marie then finds herself too late. As soon as it is revealed that the police have located Ava and are taking her into the precinct, a battered and bruised Ava informs them that little Anatolia will die unless Charlie turns himself in. Charlie unexpectedly gets into the car with Captain Marie as they are leaving the precinct. He asks her to assist him in fabricating an arrest scenario for Charlie on the news so that Tony would hopefully stop searching for him and release his son. Charlie even makes a promise to turn himself in as soon as his son returns. Marie consents to assist. But when Tony learns of Charlie's arrest, he becomes even more enraged. He orders one of his goons to kill Anatoly immediately because there is no point in keeping him around any longer. Unbeknownst to this goon, Charlie is following him on a motorcycle to the house where Anatoly is being held captive. Inside, another of Tony's men is keeping watch over Anatoly. He is told to kill Anatoly immediately. However, he refuses to carry out the orders. As all of this is going on, Anatoly is carried outside by the goon, who then shoves him into the trunk and starts to drive off. Charlie is still outside, looking as though he is stuck in barbed wire and is struggling to get free. After Charlie beats him up and drives Anatolia away, he tells his wife that they don't need to hide anymore because he has eliminated all of Tony's goons. The following day, Tony is lounging around his house when Charlie arrives. Despite everything that has happened, it appears that Charlie is willing to move past everything for the sake of their friendship, even though Charlie is no longer interested in killing Tony. Tony, who is now power-hungry, is still determined to get rid of Charlie. When Tony is caught off guard, Charlie pins him to the ground and puts a gun to his face. Charlie seizes the chance to have the upper hand. The cops show up right on schedule, arrest Tony for operating a drug ring, and it turns out that Charlie assisted Captain Marie in gathering sufficient evidence to establish Tony's guilt as a drug lord. It turns out that the police are unable to find any evidence that proves Charlie's involvement in any drug trade, so they are forced to release him. Charlie is greeted by Martin outside the precinct when he is questioned by the police later. Charlie then asks Martin to take them to the parking lot where he was shot. When they get there, we find out that the shooter who was aiming at the wall at the time was Martin. Feeling betrayed, Charlie pulls a gun on Martin, who then argues that Tony only gave him instructions to kill someone he never says who, and that he was shocked to discover that Charlie was the target and was unable to carry out the order. As it happens, Charlie fired several symbolic bullets into the wall to express his gratitude for what Martin had done for him. Charlie and his family are shown enjoying themselves at the beach in the final scene, before they gleefully head off into the sunset. Charlie longs for that kind of independence to be with his family.